Welcome to My Health, My Way, a podcast dedicated to empowering and supporting women living with endometriosis, adenomyosis, and infertility. We are your hosts. I'm Alana, Marketing Business Manager, and Sarah, a functional diagnostic nutrition practitioner. We are here to bring you stories and insights from a holistic perspective. Our aim is to foster a sense of community to help you navigate the challenges and triumphs that come with these conditions. Get ready to embark on a holistic adventure with us. Welcome to My Health, My Way, where health meets functional wisdom. Hi Sarah, we are back today and we are going to be talking about another test that you do run with your clients.
Yep.
And it's the EndoMap and the Dutch test.
Mm-hmm.
Can you tell me the difference between an EndoMap and the standard Dutch test?
Yep. The Dutch test and the EndoMap are pretty much the same.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, they look at the same. However, the EndoMap also looks into endocrine disruptors. So you have your BPAs, your herbicides, pesticides, and toxic metals and stuff.
Okay.
So that additional panel is quite good because obviously, you know, those endocrine disruptors can usually disrupt the hormones.
Yeah, definitely.
So understanding if they're present and are part of that picture is good to know. However, essentially they're both the same.
And what are we looking at in both of these tests? We've talked about the GI map and we've talked about the HTMA test. What is the endo and the Dutch test looking at?
They're looking at hormone metabolites.
Okay.
Because a lot of times when companies say, can't I just test these hormones in blood? Yes, we can, obviously, and I still like to test hormones in blood as well.
Yep.
But what blood cannot do is look at the metabolites. Okay, how does your body metabolize estrogens?
Right.
Okay, and the detox pathways of those. So that's what blood cannot do. And that is specifically important for women with endometriosis and adenomyosis, understanding how well or not well does the body metabolize estrogens and other hormones. So that is the important factor about, I guess, these kind of different hormone tests, because it's basically a urine sample.
Yeah, I was just about to say, how does this actually measure, and why do urine hormones, why are they more accurate than a blood test?
Yeah, I don't not necessarily say they're so much more accurate. I mean, I'd say they're both accurate. For what we're measuring, it just depends on what you want to actually look at, essentially. Okay. Yeah. So if you want to understand what your, hormones are doing right now, right this minute, well, you can measure it in blood. Yeah. That could also be, different tomorrow, obviously, depending on, obviously, I mean, these things can change in urine as well. If someone just had a crazy fight and then goes and has their hormones, measured, cortisol might be a bit off.
Yes.
Those kind of things. Yeah. Obviously, someone had, me back then, I remember mine were off because I had an insomnia night and I still had to do the test, which was still, good to see what happens as a result. But that obviously hugely affects hormones and upsets cortisol and perhaps even things like progesterone. So, you want to, understand too, what's happening with a person right now, and then take that into account. But they're both accurate, but obviously it depends on what is it that we want to know.
Yep. And who is this test for specifically? And then what is the best time in a cycle, in a women's menstrual cycle, to take this test?
Yep. This test is truly for any woman that is struggling with hormonal imbalances. I mean, anyone can benefit from a test like this. And we generally test on day 19 to 21 of a cycle. That is of a regular cycle of 28 days. Yep. Obviously, this may change if someone's cycle is longer or shorter. We adjust that accordingly. Might take 2 days off, so we might, measure on day 17 or 23, depending. And the reason we want to test around those days is because what we actually want to understand from these tests is the relationship between progesterone and estrogen, which is what we get when we look at, when they both are at their peak. Okay, so between days 19 and 20, which is, after ovulation, and actually seeing if ovulation occurs, because oftentimes if ovulation hasn't occurred, progesterone will remain low. And then estrogen remains the upper hand. But understanding that relationship between those two is what we kind of want to gather from that test, obviously, as well.
Now, if someone is on hormonal birth control, can they still benefit from this test?
Yes, they can, except for markers like progesterone and estradiol might perhaps not give us a true picture because obviously we are suppressing ovulation when we're taking the pill.
Yep.
And then also estrogen may perhaps look like someone is in, menopause.
Okay, yeah.
So it doesn't give us a true clear picture of those two hormones. However, it can still be beneficial to look at obviously cortisol and other hormones as well, yeah.
And how does this test help women with endometriosis and adenomyosis or just irregular cycles or even going into perimenopause and menopause?
It helps identify estrogen dominance. Obviously, that's what we see a lot. Okay, so we see a lot of that low progesterone, elevated estrogen.
Yep.
Also understanding that things like poor methylation, liver congestion, and adrenal dysregulation all are, major contributors to inflammation, pain, hormonal chaos, or, play a role. So it's like this functional roadmap to address symptoms at the root level. But in regards to, I guess, the estrogen dominance point is that oftentimes the DAT or, the endomap is what really helps me explain to clients that it isn't about everyone was running around with all this excess estrogen, right? Because that's what I feel is like, everyone thinks that, right?
Yep.
We all just have too much.
Yeah.
Just let's, lower that estrogen. But really what these tests reveal in the majority of cases is that we are so tanked when it comes to our progesterone.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because oftentimes that chronically elevated cortisol
Yes.
will result in really, really low progesterone. And oftentimes estrogen sits in a sweet spot, but the issue is further down.
Yep.
So poor methylation, okay, detox pathway issues,
Yep.
where that estrogen starts to pool rather than be metabolized properly. We might have liver issues, right?
Yep.
We have that congestion.
Yep.
So it's the issue is kind of like a bit like further down, rather than the estrogen, I guess, bank is too full.
Yeah.
It's that, we might have, estrogens in that are totally in balance, but they're imbalanced between the different estrogens. So we've got E1, E2, E3.
Yep.
So looking at the three different estrogens, understanding, okay, which one's which and, which one's actually, essentially too high.
Yep.
And then offsetting that balance within that bucket. But then also, if they are in balance or, they're not necessarily in excess, where is the issue with it? Okay,
Yeah.
which then often we can see further down with methylation, and then supporting the liver and doing all that. So, it's really understanding what is the actual issue for the particular person, and not just assuming that we're all the same.
Yeah. And then what does that do to the body? If your estrogen is really high and your progesterone is really low and say your cortisol is affecting everything because you're stressed, because you've got a husband and 2 kids, or you're a young person with a high-powered job but you do want to have children, or you have all these, really, we could go into any kind of circumstances that you might have. You might live at home with your parents and you're still a highly stressful person. What is this imbalance doing to the body?
I guess the more we're in that estrogen dominant state, the more we see things like, PMS, painful periods, mood issues, things like that. Estrogen promotes tissue growth. So we don't want estrogen to have that upper hand or be unopposed.
Okay.
That is what we don't want.
Yeah.
It's not so much about blaming estrogen, and I think we do that a lot. Yes, estrogen by nature, does encourage tissue growth, but it does that because oftentimes it's not in balance with, other hormones, okay? They all again, work together, okay? They estrogen and progesterone are best buddies.
Yeah.
They want to be together.
Yeah.
But then understanding also what upsets that balance, okay? And that's often where things like insulin and cortisol come in.
Yeah.
And this is why we start off with a balanced diet and looking at stress.
Yep.
So we're not going to look at diet and stress. It's going to become impossible to balance hormones that are further downstream. Okay, so we've got that progesterone, estrogen, further downstream of cortisol and insulin. If those two are going on a roller coaster like this, hormones are going to follow suit and doing that as well.
Yeah.
Right? We're just going to be on that endless roller coaster.
Yeah.
So the more we can keep those stable, the more estrogen and progesterone will balance.
Okay. And what are estrogen metabolites, and why does this matter when we're trying to detoxify that estrogen? Because I mean, everybody is like, estrogen is the female hormone, and but yes, it can be the female hormone, and women should have estrogen, but you can have too much. So, you know, what does the estrogen metabolites and how does that all fall apart or fall in?
When your body processes estrogens, it goes through 3 phases of detox. So we've got phase 1, where estrogen is broken down into 3 key metabolites. So we've got 2-OH, okay, this is the preferred and protective pathway. This is where we want estrogen to go down. Okay, then we got 4-OH, the most harmful because it can cause DNA damage if not methylated. Okay. And then 16-OH, which is the proliferative one. Okay, it's linked to tissue growth and worsening of conditions like endometriosis. So we don't want it to go down that path.
Right.
In phase 2, these metabolites are methylated, neutralized. And then phase 3 involves elimination through bowels, obviously. So if any of these phases are sluggish, that's why I talk about, constipation and how that can affect estrogen and it then accumulating again, and actually being more toxic. Especially like if something like 4-OH, that pathway is high and methylation is poor, which obviously we see sometimes, then harmful metabolites can build up and drive inflammation.
Right.
Okay, so then you also see mood issues and other hormonal symptoms. So actually understanding, what is happening with estrogen further down can be insightful.
Before we jump back into the second half of our show, I would like to share how you can work with Sarah. As a functional diagnostic nutrition practitioner, Sarah takes a holistic root cause approach to your well-being. Say goodbye to merely treating symptoms and hello to uncovering the root causes of your health challenges. Sarah utilises cutting-edge functional testing to get to the heart of the matter and design a personalised plan just for you. Just remember, she's only a click away. You can connect with her on Instagram under NutriRoot_health for valuable insights, health tips, and a peek into the world of functional diagnostic nutrition. If you're more of an email person, drop her a message directly at sarah@nutriroothealth.com.au. That information will be in the show notes.
Don't miss out on this opportunity to work with me, your dedicated health detective.
Now let's dive back into the second half of our podcast. Stay tuned for more intriguing conversations. So what does it mean when the pathways show poor methylation or a low phase 2 detox? And can this affect your symptoms?
Poor methylation means that your body can't neutralize estrogens effectively, leading to hormone buildup and recirculation. Okay. And then that obviously contributes to mood swings, PMS, breast tenderness, fatigue, estrogen-driven conditions like endo or even fibroids.
Right.
So we obviously, we want to understand if that's happening.
Yeah. And cortisol gets thrown around all the time. It's the buzzword. Cortisol equals stress. What is cortisol shown as a pattern throughout the day, and what does it mean if it's flat or if it's spiking?
Cortisol should follow a natural rhythm. Okay, so we want to see a healthy curve.
Yep.
It should go up. So the first reading obviously should be, but sort of lower as we're just getting up. It's usually when we take the first sample, and then 2 hours later we want to see that quite high. Okay, we want to see that curve go up, and then it gradually comes down throughout the day. That's a natural curve that we want to see.
Yep.
A flat line may reflect burnout or adrenal fatigue. Okay, so obviously that's where we depleted our cortisol stores.
Yes.
And we just got that flat line and we're going to really start to struggle. But this is also where we can see, it affecting sleep, cause anxiety, or make someone feel wired and tired at nighttime. Okay, so when that nighttime cortisol spikes, which I sometimes see, I usually see people struggle with sleep.
Yep.
We don't want cortisol to spike at nighttime.
No.
So it should spike sort of 2 hours after we get up.
Yep.
And then it should literally just be on a gradual decline. What we sometimes see depending on our morning routine is that we may, manage to spike that cortisol, but then depending on, I guess, what we're doing, eating, stress levels, work, coffee intake, all of those kind of things, is that we don't have a gradual decline. We have a fall.
Yeah.
A real hard fall. And that hurts because usually that's when we feel like we can't make it through the day.
Yeah, that's at 3 o'clock
slump.
slump.
It's like, So that's what we see. And it's actually really important, again, and this is where I guess these kind of tests help, is to see that cortisol curve that we're not getting from blood, okay? Yeah. Is measuring it a few times throughout the day to understand what's cortisol doing.
Yeah. So how do low DHEA and pregnenolone show up in symptoms, and how are they connected to stress and burnout?
Yeah. Pregnenolone is, I always like to call it like the mother of all hormones, because without pregnenolone you won't be making any of your other hormones, okay? Right. So if we look at the, and I might put up a picture as well so everyone can kind of see it. Yeah. The way it starts is with, the way I guess we make hormones is with cholesterol, okay, healthy fats, plus B vitamins. And then from there it starts with pregnenolone. Yep. Okay, that's your starter of them all. Yep. So without it, your body is going to struggle making hormones. Right. And then a DHEA is your anabolic hormone that we want to kind of see in balance with cortisol, because cortisol is catabolic, DHEA is anabolic. Yep. Okay, so actually understanding the relationship between them can be really, really helpful. Yep. Understanding if someone's in a catabolic state or in an anabolic state. Yep. Because DHEA builds your body back up. Yep. From the damage that cortisol may have done. Okay, yeah. So that's where the DHEA likes to jump in and help out. Yep. So that's kind of like that. That's why we call them the precursor hormones. Okay. Mm-hmm. So the way they show up when they're low, because obviously they affect your whole hormonal system, is things like fatigue, brain fog, low libido, poor recovery from stress. Also, if someone is exercising and literally cannot recover, it makes them feel awful. Okay, it might be that we're really, really low in DHEA. Yep. So the body really can't build itself back up at all. Yep. And general sense of just feeling empty, really fatigued. Yeah, yep. That's how those would show up in symptoms.
Yeah. Yep. What is the connection between low progesterone and anxiety, poor sleep, and short menstrual cycles?
I always talk about progesterone being your goody hormone, right? Yep. You want that one on your side. You want plenty of it. Yep. Not that I see women have plenty of it, but progesterone really supports your nervous system, okay, by enhancing GABA, a calming neurotransmitter. Right. Okay, so super, super important. Low levels can lead to, anxiety, restlessness, difficulty sleeping, cycles that are too short, or have spotting. Lots of spotting before a period is actually a sign of low progesterone. Okay. And it's often the first hormone to dip when your body is under stress. Why? Because when cortisol is elevated, again, the body is kind of smart, I guess, in a way where, okay, we got elevated cortisol, the body feels under stress, it's pumping it all out. What am I going to do to counterbalance? Okay, what's the body going to do? It's gonna kind of reach into the calming hormone because it's feeling like it's under too much stress. Yep. So we see a lot of elevated cortisol and low progesterone, right, which makes sense. Yep. So understanding, someone's lifestyle and stress patterns and, what are they doing on the daily is really, really important in order to help them, because if we can't address that at all, addressing that low progesterone or fixing that might be, really, really difficult. Yep. And this is where sometimes Vitex just doesn't cut it. Okay? No. We can try, but if we're not changing anything else, then just taking a supplement may simply not be enough to elevate that.
Vitex is a great supplement in itself, but it is not going to...
If we're not doing anything, no, it's not a fix-all. I'm not saying that it, obviously it has its benefits and it works great for some women. But if we're not addressing, the stress and nutrition part, and we're just throwing supplements at people, it's generally not that effective long term. Yeah.
Okay. How does the Endomap and the Dutch test? How do these tests help uncover deeper issues like poor liver detox, stress hormone depletion, and also inflammation?
these tests provide like a functional view of what's happening beneath the surface. So including how your liver clears hormones, how your body responds to stress, whether inflammation is disrupting your hormonal feedback loops. It's not just about how much hormones you have, okay? It's how well your body manages them.
Okay.
And that's really, how we get that deeper look into, what's your body actually doing with these hormones. Yeah. And a lot of times, tests and blood tests kind of just tell us what's happening.
Yep.
I mean, even an Endomap and Dutch, to a degree, without the oats panel, which looks a little bit into gut health and liver health markers, still just tells us what's happening. So as a standalone test, I'm not a fan. Yeah. I would never just run an Endomap or a Dutch. Yep. Because as a standalone test, it only tells us what we kind of already know. Yeah. That generally hormones are going to be a mess.
Because your body's giving you signs and symptoms.
You will know that your hormones are off. Yeah. You don't know exactly the ratios and what's what, but you know your hormones are off. Yeah. And generally, I like to do this with myself where, obviously when I meet a client and before I even get their test results, where I have like a little note to myself, I feel like they are that's an estrogen dominant client, and they're going to be low here and they're going to be high there. And then the test results come back and I'm like, yes, got that one right. Yeah. So it's interesting how when we're listening to someone, understanding their history and kind of like listening to the symptoms, that oftentimes we can, take a pretty good guess as to what their hormones are actually doing. Yeah. Not necessarily always as knowing whether there's any sort of like methylation issues or detox issues or things like that. But I see that a lot with women with endometriosis. Okay, so it's not uncommon to see that. Yeah. But yeah.
And then once you have the results from these tests, how do you start addressing them naturally? How can a person start to change things in their day-to-day life?
So I always start with opening drainage and detox pathways, super, super important. Okay, so we're looking at liver, gut, and lymph a lot. Yep. Okay, so a lot of stagnant lymph systems with women, even just gentle movement sometimes. Jumping on a trampoline can be great for the lymphatic system. Okay, get that one moving. Yep. But truly supporting the gut and liver are great prerequisites, obviously, for hormonal health. Yep. So that's going to be, a major piece of the work to really support that hormone production, regulate cortisol rhythms, and use targeted nutrients like B vitamins. And we talk about them a lot, but I prefer to have them come from food. Yep. Okay, primarily. Yep. Things like magnesium and sometimes other adaptogens if they need it. But again, this is where everyone's protocol is going to be tailored to what the findings are and I guess what their body is missing and what's disrupting function on top of everything else we're finding, and addressing that, I guess to really truly help the body back to balance.
Yep. And then once you've worked with somebody and you're working on their hormones, how often should somebody retest their hormones, and why would they do that?
If we're actively working on, I guess, trying to balance hormones and things like that, sometimes it can be good to get another view in about, 4 to 6 months. Mm-hmm. I'd give it a minimum of 4 months to let hormones, try and balance. And then if someone's taking any kind of like bioidentical hormones or anything like that, you definitely want to keep retesting every 4 months or so to make sure that the dosage that you are taking are actually right for you and that it's working. Perhaps it's too much, perhaps it's too little. So when we're taking any kind of hormones, like bioidentical hormones, it's important to actually retest perhaps a little bit more often. Yeah. However, if we're just kind of, having a little bit retest after we started a protocol, then you may want to do a retest within 4 to 6 months. And then generally speaking, I don't know, you might want to run a Dutch test or an Endomap maybe once a year or something like that if you want to.
If you're starting to feel okay.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for explaining the Endomap and the Dutch test for me. The last test we're going to talk about is a bioscan, and we're going to do that in our next episode. So thank you so much, and I'll ask you all the questions in the next one.
Awesome.
Thank you. And that's a wrap for today's episode. We hope you enjoyed the enlightening discussions and insights. If you're ready to take charge of your health journey and unravel the mysteries of endometriosis, adenomyosis, and infertility, don't forget to connect with Sarah on Instagram at NutriRoot_health, or shoot her an email at sarah@nutriRootHealth.com.au. That will be in the show notes as well.
Remember, your health is an ongoing journey, and I'm your detective, ready to help you crack the case. Stay tuned for more exciting episodes, and until the next time, take care of yourselves.